Hey, what's going on everyone, this is Jerry Views back with another video, and as you probably know by now, Apple has released iOS 18.3 to the public. Now, even though it seems like a big update, it's actually not that big. It has a few new features and changes, but not like game-changing features. Those will be the ones that will be coming with the new iOS 18.4. But it's still a pretty solid update, and in this video, we're talking about the settings of iOS 18.3, and I will show you guys about 18 settings that I believe every iPhone user must change on iOS 18.3. And we're starting things off with Apple Intelligence. Now, if you have a device with Apple Intelligence, once you update to iOS 18.3, Apple Intelligence will be enabled by default. Now, this means that if you're not using Apple Intelligence, or if you just don't need it, then go ahead and turn it off from here. So you go to your settings under Apple Intelligence and Siri. This is the switch that completely turns off Apple Intelligence on your device. So again, if you don't need it and you're not ever using it, turn it off. There's no reason to leave it on your device. The next thing I would do is go ahead and take a look at your notifications. Apple has made changes to the summarized notifications on iOS 18.3. So go ahead here and check the settings that you have for your summarized notifications, because those won't be available for a lot of your apps. Like you can see right here, it says temporary unavailable. So just go ahead and completely turn them off and just wait for the next update. Hopefully with 18.4, these will be re-enabled. But again, just know that a ton of different notifications have actually been disabled when it comes to summarized notifications. Again, this is a feature that's part of Apple Intelligence. Moving on to iMessage. Now, this is not actually a setting, but something that I believe you should change. So with iOS 18.3, what Apple has done is that they have made it very easy for you to actually have access to Genmoji right here on iMessage. So you simply tap this plus button and they will have Genmoji. From there, you can go ahead and create your own custom emojis. But when you go here for the first time, you probably won't see Genmoji because it will be somewhere down here. So what I suggest you do is go ahead, take it and just place it somewhere here at the top, of course, where you will have easier access to Genmoji, and it makes it very easy for you to actually have access to this feature and create your own custom emojis. The next thing I suggest you do is head on to your settings, go to General, and then go to Software Update. Now, between iOS 18.3 and 18.4, there will be a couple of months, of course, of beta stages until this update gets released to the public. And in the meantime, of course, there will be other updates. 18.3.1, maybe even 18.3.2. So what I suggest you do is make sure that you have your automatic updates enabled. This will allow you to just install these smaller updates that are actually very small, but they're really important because these are always released to fix like different security bugs and things like that. So make sure you have your iOS updates enabled and also your security responses and system files enabled as well, so they're automatically installed on your iPhone. Next up, we're moving to the photo settings. So on your iPhone, head on to your settings, go to apps and go to photos. Right here, you will find an interesting setting called loop videos. Make sure you have this enabled. And what it does is that allows the videos on the Photos app to actually loop, which means that when the video ends, it doesn't actually stop, but it will actually just loop the video as long as you're staying there and you have your video on the screen. That of course is very awesome. You have a ton of like similar features on other apps, and Apple finally has added this to iOS. Now of course this has been added before with iOS 18.2, but if you don't have it enabled, you can enable it from here. Another great setting can be found under the camera settings. So you go right there and then go to record sound. Now what you can do here is of course switch between stereo and mono, but also allow playback. Now what this does is allows audio playback on video recordings. If you have tried to do this before on iOS, before iOS 18.2, you know that when you start recording a video, it actually stops your audio. By enabling this, you will allow any audio that's playing on your device to actually keep playing even when you're recording a video. Moving on here to sounds and haptics. go here and scroll all the way down here, and you will find something called volume limit. Now, what this allows you to do is limit the volume of your device. Now, if you haven't changed this setting before, once you enable it, you will see this slider. So you can go from 20% up to 90%. And of course, if you want to go to 100, you just simply disable it. But I suggest that you keep it enabled and maybe keep it at around 90 to 80%, especially if you give your phone to someone, maybe someone that's just watching videos or playing music on it. You don't want them to actually blast the full sound that might damage the speakers of your iPhone. So you want to make sure that you have this limit enabled. Now, when talking about volume, we have another pretty useful setting right here. Go to accessibility and then go right here to audio and visuals. Now, what you will find is an option saying always show volume controls. What this does is that it shows you the volume controls on the music player on your lock screen. So on your lock screen you only have the volume buttons to control the volume. Now you can have a slider simply by enabling this setting right here. Now, another thing I would do on iOS is change the battery charging limit. So head on to your battery settings and then go to charging. Right here we'll have the charge limit from 80% to 100. Now, with optimized battery charging, it limits to 80, but then of course it will slowly charge based on the use that you do to your iPhone. But with this, it actually does limit to that percentage and it won't go past that. So I suggest that you keep it at around 90% here. That's a sweet spot. I believe you get the most battery, and of course your iPhone's battery is not fully charged, meaning that it will actually prevent the battery health from dropping really fast. Doing this will of course be way better for the battery health of your iPhone. So if you have especially a newer device, I suggest that you do this. The battery health of your iPhone will be maintained for a really long time. Next up, we're moving again here under Apple Intelligence and Siri, and here we have Talk and Type to Siri. It will have a few options right here, but what I'm talking about here is Type to Siri. If you're using a device with Apple Intelligence, you can now talk to Siri, but also type to Siri at the same time, and of course on other devices as well. Now, the way you do this, you no longer have to choose between one of those, because previously if you use Type to Siri, then it would disable the other ones, but now you can just double tap right there and it will show you Siri here, which means that you can type when you want and also you can speak to Siri whenever you want. And if you have an iPhone with Apple Intelligence, also make sure that you have enabled ChatGPT for your device. You go right here under Apple Intelligence and Siri, just under extensions here you will find ChatGPT and you can enable it right there. Now, what you can do here is also say confirm with ChatGPT, confirm ChatGPT requests right here. So once you have requested something, if ChatGPT can help with the request that you have done to Siri, then Siri will ask you if you want to do it with ChatGPT or not. So you enable that right here and it will basically let you know when Siri cannot do something, but it will actually move on to ChatGPT. Moving on here under the cellular data settings, so go to cellular and then go to voice and data, and here we'll have your options for 5G, LTE, or the older ones as well. Now, what I suggest you do here is just basically this will be based on your circumstances. If you're on a place or you're living somewhere when you have great 5G coverage, you can keep the 5G on, of course, and that's not a problem. Of course, 5G will actually consume a bit more battery, but that's okay. But if you're living somewhere when you don't have good 5G coverage, I would suggest that you switch to LTE or 4G, whichever one you have, because your device always trying to connect to 5G, then it will actually consume a ton of battery. Just notice that when you're on a place when you don't have good coverage, or maybe you don't have good 5G coverage, when your device tries to connect to that higher speed, it will actually consume a ton of battery. So I suggest that you drop down here to LTE. It will be much better. Next up, move on to the apps section and go to the App Store. What I suggest you do here is enable auto updates for apps. Now that you have a new iOS version on your device, there will be a ton of updates that will be released by apps, of course, on the App Store to actually make the apps more compatible with the new update. So you want to make sure that you have your apps up to date. You don't want to bother, of course, with going to the App Store and going to your account and checking the apps all the time if there's an update or not. You just enable here automatic app updates, and those will be updated automatically. Now next up, we're talking about some settings that will also help you save a ton of battery on your iPhone. One of them, of course, location services. Go under privacy and security. Always make sure that you're checking your location services. Now you can see right here, I keep them actually off. I will only enable location services when I really need it. But if you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and check the list of the apps right here. So you go to one of them and choose here what you want to allow. Now, while using the app, maybe or ask next time or when I share, and you have never here. If you never plan to use location services with an app, you can just switch it off right here. Or maybe the best option while using the app, and always if you don't really need precise location from that app, make sure you have this turned off as well. Another setting that will save you a ton of battery will be found right here in the display and brightness, and it's auto lock. Now, if you keep it on never, your iPhone will stay with the screen waking even when you're not doing something. So what it's suggested that you do is just choose one of these options. Of course, the shorter the time, the better, because your iPhone turns off, the screen turns off, and it doesn't just consume a ton of battery. So go ahead and choose one of these options and not never. And you always want to make sure that you have auto brightness enabled. Go under accessibility, display and text size, and just move down here. Now I have it disabled, of course, because of the camera of the video here, but make sure you have auto brightness enabled. Now this is a great feature. Keeping it off doesn't make sense. It will consume you a ton of battery. Probably you will have all the time the screen brighter than you need it. And whenever the screen is brighter, it means that it's actually consuming way more battery. So make sure you also have auto brightness enabled on your device. Next up, we're moving under Face ID and passcode. Scroll all the way down here and you will find something called Allow Access when locked. Now you'll see these things right here: the notification center, the control center, Siri, live activities, reply with message. All of these can be accessible on your device even though your device is locked. That means that anyone can just grab your phone and maybe reply with the message if you have a notification on your iPhone. So what I suggest you do is take a look at this list right here and switch off the things you don't want someone to actually have access to when your iPhone is locked. And last but not least, head on again here under privacy and security, and then right here you will find analytics and improvements. Go ahead and just turn off things like share iPhone and watch analytics, share iCloud analytics, share with app devs right there. So all of these things like improve handwriting, improve Siri dictation, all these things will just consume CPU power and battery on your iPhone, because they basically taking things like recording the activity here and sending it to Apple to improve these things, but they can improve them themselves. Go ahead and turn them off. So that's basically it for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that like button, and of course subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you on the next one.